So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, broadcast and recorded live on blogtalkradio.com from the new Media and American League Baseball capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. My mother bought me my first Mad magazine off the newsstand at a Stop and Shop supermarket in what I think was either 1969 or 1970. The cover featured Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid parody that I believe was drawn by Jack Davis. No, I don't still have it. I read that issue over and over again, at least until I convinced Mom to buy the next month's issue. I was 9, maybe 10, and it was the funniest thing I had ever seen. Over the years, I subscribed to Mad and bought the paperbacks, collecting the material I missed in earlier years. Mad was my gateway drug. I dabbled in Sick and Cracked, although they left me unsatisfied. Stan Lee started publishing Crazy at Marvel Comics, and I even managed to get a few letters published there. As I grew older, I started focusing on the names of the artists and the writers I liked best. Al Jaffee, Arnold Roth, Dave Berg, Jack Davis, Sergio Aragonis, the usual gang of idiots as they were known. I also heard about Mad's precedents, such as Trump and Humbug. Humbug, I'm sorry, Humbug. That's the Beatles. Humbug, but they were never available until now. Today, not only do I have a hardbound collection of the entire 11-issue run of Humbug, I also am honored to welcome two of its top contributors and co-owners, Al Jaffee and Arnold Roth, to the show. I believe I have Arnold here now, and let's see if this is going to work. I have Arnold here, and I believe we'll be expecting Al to join us. So, Arnold, welcome to Mr. Media.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here, or there.
It's good to have you in both places, sir. How are you doing today?
Well, good. But remember, I have low criteria, so every day is great for me.
All right, I'll ask. How old are you?
80. I was just
80.
80 a month ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you sound pretty good for 80.
Well, for 80, I sound good. for 79, not so hot.
No, 79, you sound a little tired, but for 80, you sound great.
Yes. Well, it's the way I live.
Clean living, or just the opposite?
Exactly the opposite.
Well, I'm expecting that Al Jaffee will be calling in any time now. He's not. We don't have him on the line yet, so we'll jump in and we'll add Al to the call when we hear from him.
He'll probably enfold rather than just appear on the phone. Yeah. He has 2 creases on his body, and when it looks like Al Jaffee, but when you do the fold in, it looks exactly like Al Jaffee. Oh,
okay. Now, hopefully, there's more than one Mad Magazine fan out there who will get that.
Oh, I see. Well, he's been at it for many decades now.
Hopefully, there's a few of them. Well, Arnold, let me ask you, what does it mean to you to see this long-lost work, this Humbug collection, discovered and preserved by Fantagraphics in this new bound edition?
Well, it's very gratifying. In a way, it's shaming. I think I draw better now. And Gary deserves, I don't know if he would accept a medal, but he deserves tremendous thanks for doing this. He really worked very hard, and it's been an arduous journey to, come up with this absolutely beautiful. I have it before me also. Edition, a 2-volume edition. When you consider what he had to work from and with, it's amazing that it came out at all. But it's absolutely beautiful.
How did all this? How did you get involved?
With the Fantagraphics, I've known Gary for many years, and he's one of my favorite people in the I can't say the business of cartooning, but the world of cartooning. I think he's done a great job for everyone of bringing so much comic material forward, so that so many more people can see these things. And, as he's progressed, etc., I think the presentations have become more and more beautiful. And but he's been devoted to the world of comic art.
Folks, hello.
Hey,
Al Jaffee here.
Welcome, Al. Just gonna introduce you. This is Bob Andelman, and of course you know Arnold Roth.
Yes, I'm sorry that I'm late, but the phone got tied up.
Oh, was it Gary Roth calling you to see if you're ready?
No, I just kept trying to get on and I couldn't. Anyway, I'm here for whatever good that's going to do anybody.
Well, delighted to have you. Arnold suggested that you were going to arrive enfolded, so I was kind of curious to see how you're going to pull that off.
I should have folded before I called.
We may have you twisted in knots before we're done, so be careful.
Good. I deserve it.
Arnold was just talking about how he'd heard from Gary Roth and how he got involved in this, and I guess I'd be kind of curious about the same thing with you. How did this come to your attention, this Humbug collection?
It came to my attention because we had a legal problem in that we weren't getting our original artwork back, and I was brought into it actually by Gary, who was involved with Arnold. So I tagged along and became involved in the lawsuit to get our artwork back.
Oh, so there was a suit involved in this.
There was a suit. There was a suit involved. We thought that the artwork had been lost, and we found out that it was being put on sale, and that's as much as I know. That because I was just called afterwards and asked if I wanted to join in trying to get the work back. But I think the suit was initiated by Gary Roth, and Arnold and I went along.
So did you guys find out about the art going up for sale before there was interest in producing the book, or did the interest in producing the book come as a result of the lawsuit and the artwork surfacing?
Well, Gary knew about the sale of the art. I had been told, now, we haven't mentioned the date. Humbug was done in 1957. And the bulk of my living has always come from working for magazines. And originals are always returned. They're not sold to the magazine. In my case, I'm commissioned. I do the work. And then technically, I guess, I license them to reproduce it. But the originals always come back. And particularly in the case of Humbug, where we were all partners in the magazine.
We were investors as well as partners.
Right.
And so there would be no doubt that we owned our original drawings, the original artwork, and it never came back. Over the years, I kept asking what had happened to it, and eventually I was told that it was stolen by a guy named Harry Sapinski from Long Island.
No, it's those Long Island guys. It's always those Long Island guys.
Every time for years, every time I wandered anywhere to Long Island, and in any place, from Montauk to Brooklyn, I was like the Ancient Mariner. I'd approach people on the street and say, Sapinski, Harry Sapinski, you know him? Nobody knew Harry Sapinski. So he supposedly had all the original artwork, and I believed what I was told, that it was gone and lost and it could not be reclaimed. And then all of this happened. Al, I don't know if you have an addition to that.
Well, well, you see, Sapinski happens to be my father. No, I really, I came in to the. I had heard various stories about what happened to the original artwork. One of the stories is that it was stored in the cellar of our former production manager, and that there was a flood, and the stuff was ruined. And so I assumed we were all good friends and we wouldn't lie to each other. And if one of our groups said the stuff was flooded and waterlogged and ruined, I accepted it and said, well, it's just hard luck. And the first I heard of any originals being alive was that story about them being put up for sale. And a number of them had been sold.
Yeah. By the way, I think I should add here that if Harry Sapinski is listening, that I owe him an apology for bad-mouthing him all these years.
Yes.
Harry, I take it back.
Okay. Everything is square now.
Yeah, I'm sure that takes care of everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that original art for a minute. Now, in comic books, up until really more recently, the last 10 or 15 years, for the most part, that stuff never came back, or pieces of it came back to the artist, or never did. Part of what attracted you guys, from what I understand, to Humbug was that you would be owners and that you would own the art. That wasn't that common before that, right?
For me, to be honest, I didn't have ownership of the art, in first place in my mind, because I had been brainwashed for so many years that I had no ownership of the originals, including, my stint at Mad Magazine, where most of the originals that I did were sold not by me, but by them. And I came out of the comic book business where I don't have a single page of the hundreds or maybe thousands that I did. So I was brainwashed really into believing that the publisher commissions the artwork and he owns all rights and everything, including privileges with my wife and children, and, all of that. So
that's true, I understand.
It is true, but in recent years, through the civil rights movement, this practice was ended. I also think they were caught with their pants down because they didn't pay, sales tax on these things, and they, I believe that they hurried to start giving this stuff back because they would owe a fortune in sales taxes and penalties. So some of the, but it didn't matter much to me. I haven't gotten a hell of a lot out of it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Al, you have gained insofar that all that brainwashing has given you the cleanest mind in America.
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
Although I do have a few corners reserved for filth.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do.
In that case, Al, did I ever... No.
You're welcome to have any of it if you'd like. Anyway, the story of originals is a very sad one. I don't think I think the heirs of Schuster and who's the other?
Siegel
and Schuster's heirs are getting a lot of stuff back now because I think the laws have changed to some degree. I don't really, I haven't kept up with it. I just figured I'm a victim and the hell with it.
Bob, they're the two fellows who invented Superman.
Superman.
Of course.
And really were jerked around forever. For the rest of their lives, really. So.
Yes, but their ancestors, their offspring are
heirs.
Their heirs are cashing in now. I understand.
Well, I've always wanted to meet some rich heirs.
You always put on airs.
How long have you two known each other?
Oh, I think since Trump.
Yeah, that's when we first met. Harvey Kurtzman, Will Elder, and, well, I can let Al tell you all about it. They were friends, I think, all three since high school, right?
Yes,
Al?
yes.
Yeah.
We came from the same high school. And there were a number of others as well. Al Feldstein, who became editor of Mad Magazine after Harvey, was for music and art, and John Severin, and really quite a large number of people that we, kept knowing even after graduation.
Yeah. I'm a Philadelphian, and so I couldn't have gone to that high school. But once I knew about it, I said, that's a wonderful school. You learn two things from which you can't make a single living: the music, the High School of Music and Art.
That's right.
I want to give our listeners a chance if they'd like to call in and ask you guys a question. I'm talking, of course, to Al Jaffee and Arnold Roth, who are here talking about the collected edition of Humbug magazine from 1957. But of course, they've also familiar to you from Trump, but Mad Magazine, you name it. Anywhere there's been humorous illustrations, cartoons over the last 50 years, these guys may have touched or influenced. So give us a call, 646-595-3135. What do you remember about, each of you, what do you remember about that time of Humbug? Trump had closed after 2 issues. As I understand, it was basically that Harvey, who had this issue for a long time, couldn't stay on a schedule, and he was not the greatest businessman. And you guys get involved with starting Humbug. What was that time like in your lives?
Well, it was arduous in a way because we were all young. We were all having our children, and I might have been I think I was the youngest in the bunch, but it was a matter of a few years, the spread. And
no longer.
Well, I didn't want to say, Al. But actually, Hugh Hefner had given us office space because he was the publisher of Trump, and he felt very contrite about what had happened. So he did give us the free office space here in Manhattan, and but all of us, none of us were wealthy. All of us had money invested in the magazine. It wasn't huge amounts. To us, they were huge amounts, and then of course we were doing all the work and not being paid. Would you vouch for that, Al?
Yes, and by some curious twist in my mind, I remember it, and I remember telling someone this at the time when they asked me, "How can you go on, without an income for such a long time?" And I said, I just don't know why, but this is the happiest time of my life.
Right. It really was exhilarating. Right?
It was exhilarating. The fact that we were not only doing the things that we wanted to do, but we had a proprietary interest in the magazine and just enjoyed each other's company as well, and I think produced really superior work. I can't think of anything I've done that's any better than I did in Humbug.
Yeah. Oh, I every issue, we would just miss breaking even in sales, and
And we bought most of them.
Right. And with this going on month after month, one day Harvey said to me, "I just had a terrible thought." I said, "What?" He said, "What if we're successful? We'll have to keep doing it." Well, his fears were unwarranted.
A great afterthought.
Well, guys, I've got a call here. Hi, welcome to Mr. Media. Do you have a comment or question for Arnold Roth and Al Jaffee?
Hello?
Hi, you're on.
Oh, hi. My name is Jason Miles, and I'm a employee at Fantagraphics, the publisher of Humbug. And I worked on the book. It was my honor to. And I had a couple of questions. The first one is for Mr. Roth. We've all been wondering how you did the Mike Wallace portrait.
By hand.
Well, was it scratchboard? Or
first, Jason, I'd like to thank you and compliment you on the wonderful work you did.
Yeah, that goes for me, too.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, well, I'm not looking at it exactly now. That might have been done on scratchboard.
Okay.
Does it have sort of an engraving kind of look?
Yeah, we were all of us here were kind of looking at it, and it appeared scratched away, but the touch was so soft we weren't certain because the paper itself wasn't that damaged the way all that scratchboard is, but it was for us a big mystery. Yeah.
Well, for listeners, a scratchboard is a clay-coated cardboard, and you paint or you can use pen. You put your ink on the surface, and then you scratch away. And everything you scratch away, of course, is the white clay shows through. So it's an easy, greasy way of doing pieces that look like they're engraved or etched or whatever. And at that time, I had done a lot of work using that technique. As a matter of fact, eventually I did a lot of them for Playboy and Sports Illustrated, a lot of scratchboard drawings.
Wow, it's amazing. Everybody here was completely blown away by that, as well as a lot of the other original art that we used to shoot for the book.
I'll tell you. Okay, not to hold your question, but to me the most amazing thing would be an Al Jaffee coming in. He did a cornflakes box, which is hilarious. And if you look at it, it folds. If you cut it out and folded it, it would make a cornflake box.
I couldn't get Kellogg's to buy it.
But sorry, Jason, I interrupted your question.
Yeah.
No problem. I guess my second question was a lot of the originals that I had the opportunity to go through for the Humbug collection. A lot of the drawings, I noticed the characters' heads had been redrawn and applied, and I saw this for originals by Mr. Will Elder, and both your drawings and Mr. Jaffee's drawings, and I was wondering if this had anything to do with Harvey Kurtzman's editing or I mean, he's sort of legendary for being a perfectionist, and from all that I've read. So I wasn't certain, but it seemed to be a unifying factor for all the original artwork that I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, patches everywhere.
Yeah.
That was. Do you want to give the lament, Al, or should I?
No, you can do it.
Well, Harvey was a perfectionist, and as a matter of fact, while I agreed philosophically with Harvey about everything, just about, I like to work, do something and then do the next one, but Harvey was a honer. He would. He insisted if you just did this over or you just worked on this longer, it would improve, and that was part of his and he was successful and good at it. So But those are the two basic approaches, and those patches were the result of Harvey's input.
Well, I think there must be a little bit of Harvey in me, because I think I did a lot of that to my own work. You know, you take a look when you get a few steps away from it. You know, when you jump into the work, you're drawing quickly and sketching in and getting your feelings down, and then after the whole thing is finished, you notice that certain characters are they're not in the scene. They're daydreaming and looking off somewhere else, and so you paste up a new little head, or in some instances even a hand, because you know, it was pointing in the wrong direction or whatever. I don't specifically remember doing a lot of it, but I know I did it on occasion. I can't imagine that Harvey and Harry Chester, our production art man, that they did it on their own.
Oh, no.
I don't think so.
No, yeah, it always looked like it was done by the hand of the cartoonist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, I thank you guys for taking the time to answer my questions, and it was an honor to work on the project. And
well, thank you.
I think Gary's he's looming over me, so I better get back to work.
Okay. Well, Jason, again, thanks for all your good work. You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks for calling in, Jason. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Good question. Bye-bye. Well, that was very nice.
Yes.
Indeed.
There was a famous incident about patches as we were doing Humbug. Yes.
Go ahead.
There's a fellow named Bob Bleckman, Robert Bleckman, and he signs his work R.O. Bleckman. And he's a very careful worker, although he has the most primitive looking, you know, at a glance, drawings. He's a terrific cartoonist. He's great. And but it's very simple work. It's not elaborate at all. And he did a cover for our April issue or March, I don't know. But the cover was an all-white cover with hundreds of little hats being blown around, you know, by the March winds. And in one hat, the guy is still holding the brim, you know, so there's this one figure. And each hat and the guy were separate little pieces of paper that he had drawn and then made into this composition for the cover. And as the story goes, he delivered the cover on Monday, and he came back on Tuesday, and he told the production man he knows it could be better. So he took all the pieces of paper off with rubber cement remover, as we worked in those days, and rearranged all the little hats and the man. He came back Wednesday and did exactly the same thing. He came back Thursday and again rearranged it. He came back on Friday, and the production man said, "Bleckman, you can't change it. It's at the printers." And, you know, Bleckman was dejected, and he left. At our Christmas party, and now remember, that was the March cover, so the story took place probably around Christmas time, for all I know. But at any rate, Harry Chester was sitting on a stool, and we were having drinks, and he lifted his hand, and I said, "Harry, there's something on your finger." And there was this little white piece of paper, teeny piece of paper, and he turned it over, and there was a Bleckman drawing of a hat. And Harry dropped his drink and said, "Don't tell Bleckman, don't tell Bleckman." I said, "No, Harry, it's over. It's been printed."
Oh, man. You know, Jason mentioned the Cornflakes box, which was really, I went back and looked at it yet again. It really is genius. One of the things that I really liked in here as well was this is Arnold's. There's a double truck page of Arnold's. It's vacation time, stimulating reproductions for you who will vacation abroad. And at first I almost went past it, but then I started looking at it more carefully, and it's just great. It's fly to Russia, make your own aerial inspection, and then over the top you see the peasants, and then down below, they're building bombs. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's the whole thing just, and of course, this is great. See the sights of Rome, and you've got Sophia's chest and Gina's chest. It's just, I don't know.
Well, you know where Arnold's mind is.
Yeah, I was never brainwashed. As a matter of fact, Hugh Hefner, who we all got to know very well, called me Dirty Arnold. I think,
and that's a euphemism.
An accolade.
Well, so we talked about the art and how it was refound. What's become of the art now? Will it be for sale? Will it be museum? Or what'll happen to it?
Well, Al, you can speak to that, I think, better than I can.
Well, because of my previous brainwashing, it's such an unusual experience for me to have my own art. But actually, seriously, though, I don't know what to do with this stuff. I mean, I live in a small apartment in New York City, and storage space is at a premium. I have shelves loaded with things that had been being returned to me, and like fold-ins where each one weighs a pound, and
is that right? Wow.
Well, it's a very large illustration, a 3-ply illustration board. When you get 10 of them, it's a hefty package, and they're 20 by 24 or something like that. But I have a box in which I keep the Humbug stuff, and I guess my family will inherit it, and then it's their problem. I don't know what to do with this stuff.
Well, Al, if you don't sell it in the amount of time you want to, remember you can always send it to Lucy Caswell at the Ohio State Cartoon Research Library.
But what has Lucy Caswell sent to me?
A thank you note.
And
but she's a letter writer.
A letter for your accountant to deduct it.
Right. Actually,
well, his accountant isn't out yet, but as soon as he's on parole, Al will make him aware of it.
He had 2 clients, me and Madoff.
That's right.
Well, it's funny. I'm glad you mentioned Lucy Caswell and the art. You guys don't know this, but I did Will Eisner's biography. And spent,
yes, I knew your name.
Oh,
okay.
Well, so I spent about three years with Will working on that, and we talked about Harvey Kurtzman, and one of the things that I was going to ask you about this later, but one of the things that Will said, and that Harvey's widow said to me as well, was that Harvey was not great with business and business advice and that kind of thing, but Will said that the one thing that Harvey gave him advice about through the years that was really good advice was, he said, you don't want to die with your art. You want to do something with it for tax purposes. I think that, help me, the guy who did Pogo, Walt Kelly.
Walt Kelly.
Yes, Walt Kelly.
Right?
That was a tragedy.
Yeah, and Russell Patterson also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He left artwork to his wife, and the tax bill that they sent was more than the artwork was worth.
Yeah.
I don't know, with penalties and all of that.
Yeah. Well, what happens is the IRS or whoever come in, and they assess, if you've ever sold any of your originals, they assess you for the value of all the drawings as though you had sold them. And Walt Kelly's widow worked off the tax bill. She lost the house. She lost everything.
Yeah.
Wonderful woman, Selby Kelly.
Selby, yeah.
Now going, and a great animator. And she she was poor her whole life because of that.
The way it works is that if you have, say, 1,000 pieces of artwork, and some crazy rich person that you knew comes along and says, I love this one that you did. I'll give you any amount. How about $25,000 for it? Will you take it? And you say, gee, sure. And now the IRS thinks that you can get $25,000 for the other 900 and
right.
million of them. And this guy created a market of one.
Yeah.
He just one person who created the market, and then the IRS takes the position that you've got 1,000 more people waiting out there to pay you $25,000, whereas the market really is maybe 1,000 or something like that, but not the other price. So it's very tricky. You can't give it away in anticipation of death.
Yeah.
If your doctor tells you have a terminal illness, and you say, well, I'm going to unload all of this to my kids or whatever, it doesn't work.
I think every cartoonist's dream life would be to sit at the drawing board and keep producing funny pictures, and by some, from heaven comes money, and you just continue sitting there and drawing funny.
Well, now we've come full circle, though, on the ownership thing. Maybe the comic book industry was doing us all a favor by keeping the originals.
Well, the syndicates, the comic strip syndicates, used to chop up all the strips.
They would burn them.
Yeah, burn them? Oh, yeah, I know they got rid of them.
Well, the comic book people did that, too. I remember in the Empire State Building, they were sending stuff down to the basement to be thrown into the boiler, incinerator, or whatever they have down there.
Oh, my God. Not only were they gypping the cartoonists, they were polluting.
Yes.
Well, and I'm sure you've heard the stories that the early years of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, NBC just taped over them because they didn't see any value to them. So those were lost. Let me. I want to give out our phone number one more time. If you guys are okay with sticking around for a few more minutes.
Sure.
Good. If you'd like to talk to my guests, artists Al Jaffee and Arnold Roth, we've got a line free. Give us a call, 646-595-3135. I think we have enough to talk about without you, but if you'd like to call in, we'd be happy to hear from you. Tell me something about Harvey Kurtzman that most people don't know.
Well, I'll let Al start because he knew Harvey so well and for so long.
Well, Harvey has been, so many people have been interviewed about Harvey, and so much has been written about him that I don't know that anybody doesn't know everything about Harvey. I can't. I assume that everyone knows what I know, so I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, what was he like to deal with on a day-in, day-out basis? He's become certainly the stuff of legend, and I know that my friend Dennis Kitchen is publishing, I think, a biography of him this summer, but you guys were actually dealing with him, especially during the Humbug days, day-to-day. What was he just like to be around?
Oh, well, I liked him. Harvey, I thought he was a lot of fun to be around. He wasn't, he would say a funny thing occasionally, but he wasn't someone who wisecracked or said funny things necessarily.
He deferred to other people. For example, so many times he said he would actually put you on a spot. When he had a gathering or a party, he would say, Arnold, tell that funny story about such and such.
Yeah.
Or, he did that with you many times, Arnie.
Oh, yeah.
Tell that joke that made us laugh so hard when we were at Hefner's mansion.
Yeah.
But in the a lot of the things that broke Harvey up were of the moment. And when he put you on the spot that way, he would do it to me too. And I would tell the story and it would drop dead. It was just something that was funny in context. But in a backyard barbecue with all his neighbors, he, tell that funny story about when Willie, the shirt tore at Hefner's mansion. It was he was really a marvelous understander of talent that goes into print.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he was not a performer himself. Couldn't tell a joke, I don't think.
No,
I never heard him tell a single joke in 65 years.
But I had a lot of great experiences with Harvey. It was obvious he was very intelligent, and he had ideas, and he did have a great idea for finding talent. But I went with him to. It was the first gathering, an international gathering of cartoonists and cartoon fans in Angoulême, a small city in the south of France, toward the south of France. And what Harvey did with Mad was to revolutionize things. I always think of Harvey and Hefner as key people. Why we had the 60s, they were very influential in all that.
Oh, yes.
And Harvey was honored and beloved by all these cartoonists from around the world. And it was as though he was the Pope of cartooning. I thought they were going to bring people on crutches and in wheelchairs for him to touch them so they could walk and run again or whatever. And it was well deserved because he had done that for cartooning. He really loosened it up and a lot of humor. And opened it up tremendously. He
was really a behind-the-scenes genius.
Yeah.
He was a director. He could pull out the best that you had. Now, some people who worked with him couldn't deal with that. Even Arnie, if you don't mind my saying so,
you're
Arnie, right, would balk at being second guessed.
Yeah,
and it happened to me a lot. But in my case, I think he improved my work because his vision of even the material that I wrote, he would see deeper into it.
Yeah.
And he would say, Al, think about this. Wouldn't it be better to expand this into this area? And I'd see, gee, I never even thought of that. That's great. So he that's why I said that year that I went absolutely dead broke working on Humbug was the best experience of my life, was working so closely with Harvey for all that time. And, I have, nothing but respect for him. But people would misread what Harvey did for the humor and satire world by thinking that this guy's got to be the funniest clown in the world to produce that kind of material. but he wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, I do have one of my favorite Harvey stories. Is we had a huge party at his house. He lived up in Mount Vernon, and I think he had every cartoonist who ever lived was at this party with their wives and dates or husbands or whatever, and everybody was a talker, and it was an absolute din. And he had a large living room in his living room, and everybody's talking at the same time. And finally, we're aware of someone really shouting, and someone shouting, "People, people, people," and we all quiet down. And Harvey had a baby grand piano in the living room, and he's standing on the lid. And everybody gets quiet and looks up at Harvey, and he says, "I want you all to have a good time." And everybody got their coat and went home. And as I left, I said, "Harvey, you were meant to be an editor." He couldn't stand to not. He knew the party could have been better if only he did that.
Oh, yeah. Funny.
He was something. I miss old Harv. I'll tell you the truth. I used to consult with him every time I was stuck on some kind of intransigent job I was working on, and I'd call him up and just pick his brain, and he was very generous that way, and a good friend, and and a very good talent. I had a great affection for him.
Oh yeah.
Well, guys, how did the end come to Humbug, and how did each of you hear about it?
Do you want to tell the story, Hal? Well,
I don't really remember. I got a telephone call that said you're finished.
No, we. Well, the background of it really is that the publisher, the printer, and publisher, and distributor for the magazine.
That was Charlton. That was Charlton, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Charlton, yes.
Right. And they owned a title of a mad type magazine called Crack. Was it Cracked?
No.
Cracked, I think. Or Sick?
No. I think it might have been Cracked, but
no. Cracked was owned by somebody else. Yeah,
it was a 2-word title, I think. Anyway, I know it, but it won't come to me. But so at any rate, this distributor, printer, etc., wanted us to do that every other month, and do Humbug every other month. And so we were called to a meeting up in Derby, Connecticut, and it was one of the worst blizzards we've ever had. Fortunately, Jack Davis, who's as you know, a great cartoonist, was also a great driver, and we all dumped into his station wagon, and we drove up, and it was pretty slippery then. And
the only car on the road that was moving.
Yeah.
They were piled up on the sides and everything.
Yeah, we went to the meeting, and the fella gave us his offer, and we said, well, we'd like to go out in the car and talk it over. And as soon as we got in the car, everybody, practically like the Mormon Tabernacle choir, said, "We're out of business," and we went back in and demurred. And a very funny thing happened on the way back, though. And it was really dreadful. We really were the only thing moving, and we hadn't eaten all day. And so here was this place off the side of the Merritt Parkway, and its neon sign was lit, the Red Barn. And so we slid down toward it, and just in the short walk from the car into the restaurant, you got covered in snow, and we're all shaking the snow off us, and there's absolutely no one in this restaurant, which I remember had red checkered tablecloths. And So finally, as we're clearing the snow off ourselves, this woman, middle-aged woman, comes out of the kitchen. She was like a cartoon drawing. She was a heavy-set woman with an apron and a hair done up in a bun, and she's staring at us across the restaurant. And Willie Elder walks toward her and says, "Don't worry, we're all married."
I remember that.
And that woman set the world's record for jumping back into a kitchen.
Willie was very, very concerned about being very moral. I mean, he was really, and there he was doing little Annie Fanny. What he was worried about is that this woman would be offended that we might flirt with her, and that would be improper for married men. So he had to inform her of that.
We've got a couple of minutes left, and I want to ask you guys what you're doing now. I imagine, I think I know that, Al, that you're still doing the back covers, the fold-ins. And go ahead.
I'm doing it, but we've been cut back drastically. So I've been trying to do some other things as well. But I am illustrating a book that's being written by a friend of mine, Mary Lou Weissman, and the book is titled Al Jaffee's Mad Life, which begins where I was born in Savannah, Georgia, and at the age of 6, I was taken to live in Europe for 6 years in a Jewish shtetl, a ghetto, and the book is about from the ghetto to mad. So
could you tell them apart, or did your mother have to keep explaining?
No, it's a perfect segue to go from the madness, from one madness to another.
Right.
So that's the only thing I have to say. I would like to plug my Tall Tales book, which is in the bookstores now, and that's about it.
And I should mention, Arnold, I want to come to you in a second, but that Stephen Colbert did a new introduction for that book, and I was going to ask you how that came about.
Well, Colbert gave a birthday party tribute to me one night.
Oh.
Yeah, do you have time for me to tell you this little story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My wife Joyce and I had been in Mexico, and we came back after an arduous trip with the plane being delayed and all that, and we got home at about 11, and we decided we were too keyed up to go to sleep. Let's turn on Jon Stewart. We did, and after Stewart was finished, up comes Stephen Colbert. And we're about to turn him off, and he holds up a copy of Mad Magazine, and he said, "Today, Al Jaffee is 85 years old, and we baked a cake for him." And they brought out this rectangular cake that was a fold-in.
Oh, I think I saw this. Yes.
So, the way it worked was that you removed the center part of it and then pushed the two ends together, and it I don't remember what it said. It said something about my work or something in the large cake. But when only the two sides were left, it says, "Al Jaffee, you are old." And so, I subsequently got in touch with him and got to meet him, and he told me that he was, a big fan all his life, and that's how that came about. So when I asked him to do the intro, he actually said to me, "I'd be honored." So there you are.
I know he's a big comics guy, so that doesn't surprise me, but it's very interesting.
He's a very nice guy. Oh, and I had dinner with him. It says so in the introduction. I sat next to him at a dinner celebrating their book called America.
Right.
and we just had a lovely evening. This was long before all the other stuff, and so that's how it all came about.
And Arnold, what are you up to?
Oh, well, let's see. I'm in my 58th year of freelance, so I'm still freelancing. I do quite a few things for the New Yorker through the year. You know, magazines, a book. One of the things I'm working on is doing sets, etc., and I've already done the poster for Pirates of Penzance. A Philadelphia company is doing it in June. So, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. The story of my life.
I think it's great that you guys are still so active and vibrant. You know, what tends to happen is you stop working and everything stops. You keep working, you just keep going. I mean,
that's true. Didn't Eisner work all the way?
He worked so long. Yeah, his last project, he was having heart pains. He was at his desk, but he wanted to finish this project with the guy who did Cavalier and Clay, Michael Chabon.
Oh yeah.
He was illustrating a project for him, so he finally finished it and took it to FedEx, and then he went to see his doctor, and he said the doctor looked at him and said, "You got to go to the hospital," and he never came home again. It was but you're right. I mean, he worked to the last.
Yeah,
I worked for Eisner.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my first job in comics was with Will Eisner.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was when he was in Tudor City.
Yeah.
A very brief time there. I had a couple of months there, and Dave Berg was my friend there. But that's where I met him.
Yeah. I knew Dave Berg had started with him and was in and out as a freelancer. I didn't realize that you were there also.
I guess Jules Pfeiffer worked for him too.
Well, Jules came later. Yeah. Jules came later.
Yeah.
And then I met Will Eisner in the Pentagon, where we both worked.
Oh wow.
But Bob, talking about not retiring is as many cartoonists have observed, we're already doing what most people want to retire to do. So
that's true, right? Yeah.
We don't retire. I guess golf pros have the same problem. What do they do when they retire?
Well, as long as the work comes in. I mean, I haven't turned anything down, and you know, except once in a while, someone thinks I can do a fold-in for $25. So you know, I have to say sorry. But
well, how about if it's two? Would you do two for $35?
You got a deal, Arnie. You got a deal.
All right.
Yeah, and if you want to sell two of those old fold-in originals for $35, that would be a good price. I'd ante that.
Cash and carry.
Much more actually. Guys, it has been an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. You've been delightful. I know we wound up keeping you actually over an hour. I didn't plan that, but I have a feeling we could go another hour, but I won't put you through that. But
it went very fast. You know, when you said I really have to close up now, I thought it was 2:30. I mean, that's how quickly it went by.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We have the doing these online radio shows. We really have the option to let it go. And what's been happening is we were streaming live. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it was going out live up until about a minute and a half ago, and we're still recording. And I've just sent out a note to people that they'll be able to hear the ending on the archive. So we actually have the opportunity. If things are going well and everybody's having a good time, we can just keep going. But it's a very interesting difference. Let me ask you guys one last thing, and I'll let you go. Who or what makes each of you laugh today? Whether it's in print or TV or you know, what makes you laugh?
Wow. Nothing.
Well, politicians, I think, are the best source.
No, it's very hard to find. You know, I mean, there are lots of very excellent performers. You know, I enjoy Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert enormously, but they don't make me laugh as so much as make me think.
Grown.
And because it's basically commentary and with a bite to it, Saturday Night Live it has parts that are still very good, but been there, done that. It's kind of begins to wear thin after a while.
Well, in cartooning, I think Bud Grace, who does what is now the comic strip that is now called the Piranhas, used to be Ernie. He can be hilarious, I think, and a lot of the political. Oops. Hello?
Still here.
Yes.
And a lot of the political cartoonists can be very funny too, I think.
Well, of course, if you get to see a lot of... Now, I haven't seen Bud Grace's stuff in years because, I don't get the newspaper that it appears in.
Right.
And so, it's not... It's just not easy to keep up with everything. I mean, people who spend all their time on the computer, even reading comics on the computer, because they are distributed. I think Caroline.
Yeah, my wife does that. That's how we see Bud Grace.
Yeah, see that. Now, I'm not that. I don't spend that much time on computers or in front of television, but I guess that's because I'm an old fogey.
Al, when you get electricity in your apartment, I think you'll like it.
I have electricity, but I have to keep pumping the treadle, and it's driving me crazy.
Oh, man. There's one daily cartoonist I wanted to ask you about in particular, because I think he harkens back to another era. Mark Tatuli, who does a strip called Leo, L-I-O.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I think he's doing 2 or 3 strips, isn't he?
Yeah, he also does Heart of the City.
Yeah, he's good. He's a funny guy, and I've met him. He's a very nice fellow too. Yeah, he's easy company, as we used to say.
There are. I used to have a subscription to a newspaper called Funny Times, and it's still going. I just forgot to renew, but it has reprints of popular cartoons, and one of the top ones that I discovered there was Alison Bechdel's comic, but it's not a humor comic. It's just beautifully written, and she has a bestseller in book form now, and she did a critique of a book in comic form in last Sunday's book section, which was excellent.
Yeah,
she's terrific. I wanted to write her a fan letter, but her internet address doesn't answer. I mean, it's printed on her stuff, but it's not picked up.
Yeah. Well, there's a woman named Nicole Hollander, who's doing Sylvia. Which I always thought was a very good piece of work.
Very good.
Yeah, very consistent too.
There are so many people that you can't see because they're working for the alternative presses and alternative comic books.
Yeah.
And you'd have to subscribe to a million different things to get to see everybody. Yeah. The communication business has spread, enlarged exponentially. When I was a kid, I think there were 6 comic strips.
And they were all done on woodblock.
Exactly. No, scratchboard.
I knew they were cheating.
Al, I've got a question for you. I was going to let you go, I swear, but a question just came in. There's a live web chat that accompanies these interviews, and one of the listeners there wanted to know why you didn't turn snappy answers to stupid questions into an animated series ever.
Well, I think that goes back to the ownership problem, in that the first Snappy Answers that I did was in Mad Magazine, which gave them the ownership, and so I, if they want to do it and they ask me, then I can do it, but I can't do it on my own.
Got it. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted.
You've exhausted Al Jaffee.
I think so.
Yes.
I want to make sure to tell everybody that you can order the complete collected edition of Humbug. It's a beautiful box set on Amazon.com, Fantagraphics.com, or of course on MRmedia.com, MrMedia.com, and Arnold's book Freelance is available on Amazon, still available, and Al's book Tall Tales with the introduction by Stephen Colbert, also available on Amazon and Mr. Media. Guys, I can't thank you enough as a.
No, thank you.
As a great old fan of all of your work and the Mads, and it was just an honor to talk to you. You were delightful, and I hope we'll see many, many more years of your work, and maybe we'll get you back on here again to talk some more.
It was a pleasure, Bob.
Yes, it was a pleasure for me too. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Best of luck to both of you.
Okay.
You too.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And folks, for more comics-related interviews, you can surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com, where you can listen to my earlier conversations with Gene Colan, Trina Robbins, Joe Staton, Monty Wolverton, Basil Wolverton's son, Stephen Pastis, Mark Tatuli, we just talked about, Mort Walker, and many more. And please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites. Whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, MySpace, Facebook, High Five, Tag, Bebo, Orkut, Digital Journal, Podcast Pickle, Vox, Pointer Online, iGoogle, Yahoo, Folio, Mediafly, Podfeed.net, Blueberry, Zencast, or Odeo. Folks, you can find this thing anywhere. Subscribe to Mr. Media on iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. Just search Mr. Media Interviews from within iTunes and subscribe for free. You can also listen, in the spirit of Mad and Trump and Humbug, with a piece of string and a tin can in many locations. If you've got an idea for a guest, email me directly at bob@andelman.com. That's ANGELMAN.com. You can also follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, www.twitter.com/Andelman. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing a piece of your day with Mr. Media. Thanks so much for listening.